Hello, welcome to the 3-book vlog. I'll explain the premise of it in a minute, but apparently this is the dress I wear when I wish it was more typical spring weather. But currently it's mud season. We have this thing, specifically in this town. I don't know if it's just a Vermont thing or this town thing. I feel like Besties mentioned it too, so maybe it's a Vermont thing. But basically, especially here, because we have one basically paved road, and then all the roads that people generally live on are side roads that are dirt roads. And then spring, it's really rainy. And so you combine the two, you can actually probably hear the rain because I do have my window open. So you combine the two, you got mud roads, so mud season. Yeah, I mean, last time I wore this dress, there was snow on the ground, so I guess it's slightly better. But yeah, 3-book vlog where I do not know what 2 of the books are, so I'm not going to go into what either one of them are. Really, I'm just going to say that they're Edenbrook and what's the other one? A Kingdom of Dreams. I know that one's the Judith McNaught one. I don't know anything. I think both of them are also historical romances, but the only one I know anything about really is the third one, which is the one I started this morning, which is why we're doing this now. Despite the fact that it's like so early in the month, it's not even my birthday yet, but that's fine. Now the premise of this vlog is my birthday. I mean, I did mention that's before my birthday. Technically, tomorrow's my birthday. So, you know, good times. And last year, it's not on this channel because it's on the old one that died. We don't need to talk about it. But on my birthday, I did this thing where we like went through all my TBR on Goodreads. That was like 1,500 back then. So very long. And removed a lot of books. And there were a few on there that people were like, what the hell is this? So I decided I would put the 3 that most stood out to me at that time, like to the point where I still remember it a year later, and read them for a vlog in my birth month this year. And not do 4 vlogs in a month again. I'm pretty sure I did 4 vlogs. Or was it 3 long vlogs? One of the 2, last year for my birthday. But yeah, that's kind of the current plan. That's what this is. These are 3 of those books. Thankfully now my TBR on Goodreads is below 1,000 technically, despite the fact that I have on my phone a bunch of screenshots of just books that intrigue me, to the point where I had to make a photo album on my Photos app just for that. I have a bunch of saves on Instagram of books that intrigue me. I have multiple sticky notes with just books that people mention during sprints written down, of other books. So like there's probably more, there's like probably close to 1,050 maybe, in actuality, but not all those are on Goodreads. So we don't need to count it. There's technically 992 on Goodreads now that I started the first book for this vlog. So it's fine. It's technically still below 1,000. That's kind of like my goal, to keep it below 1,000. But the first book for the vlog, the one I started, I'm only like 5% into it, but it's kind of short. I think it's like 240-ish pages, is proper English. I'm just gonna give you a moment of silence for that cover because I love it. It is just a horrible 2000s Photoshop job to perfection. And it came out, I want to say in like 2019, 2017, in the late 2010s. I love it. There's this thing where I love watching early 2000s shows that, like, I usually generally loved them when I was growing up, that are like high fantasy or sci-fi shows. And so like, but they're not like high budget shows like Game of Thrones. In particular, the one that first comes to mind is Merlin with a Dragon. Because, like, if you think about it, like, 10 years later, we had Game of Thrones. Not even. I think I looked it up at one point. It was, like, only a few years later, we had Game of Thrones dragons. But, like, because of budget and whatnot, and the location of where it was being distributed and such, it's real bad. The CGI real bad, and, I love those. I love them so much. A lot of them are actually BBC, now that I think about it. You know, that's fine. I love them. So, yeah, it's no surprise that I love this cover because of the bad Photoshop job. It's self-published, I'm pretty sure. So, like, nothing, like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, that's a bad Photoshop job, blah, blah, blah. I love it. Okay? I love it. I mean, my favorite Tessa Dare is also a horrible Photoshop job. And it's Tessa Dare. So, yeah. Like, this one's even better than that one. So, yeah. That's my whole spiel about how much I love this cover. I should probably actually talk about the book, which is following Pat, I believe her name is. I learned it was gay like a week ago, like right after I filmed my TBR, and then I had an existential crisis because what? How did I not know this? And then I looked at the synopsis last night, and then I started to read it this morning. Basically, she is not like your normal girl. She likes shooting. She has spent most of her adult life taking care of the family home for her brother because he doesn't do anything with his life, but he just got married, so the new wife is going to be taking over the position, and she recognizes that one of two things will happen. Either she will step on the new wife's toes, basically ordering how to do it, and then they'll hate each other because of it, or the new wife will basically treat her like an uppity servant, making her do all the stuff, and then she'll resent her for it. So she's like, I gotta leave, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do, all the stuff. From my understanding, she's currently on the train to get to this shooting event. She just won a all-women's competition for shooting, so you know, she's pretty good. She's very big on doing typical masculine things, right? And she doesn't want to get married, all this fun stuff. So like she has no interest in men. So there's like a little friends gathering where they're gonna go shooting in a rural area. One of her brothers is going. One of her childhood friends who just got engaged is going. She just learned that he got engaged, and that the reason that he got engaged is because the family, I think he's like an earl or something like that, or his dad is an earl, something like that, is running low on funds because of some bad money decisions, and so he's marrying an heiress just for the purpose of needing money, but she has run out on 2 previous fiancés. So yeah, good times. And then there's just gonna be a few other people there, right? And I don't know what happens yet because I haven't gone there, but it says in the synopsis that something happens at the event, and it makes it awkward, or some surprise people show up or something like that. And then she ends up going to, I think his name's Jimmy, the childhood friend who is now engaged, house. And then she starts falling for his fiance, and so they have an affair. This is where the game comes in. So they start having an affair, the two of them, right? And then, okay, no, something, my mom coming home. And then there's someone gets stabbed in the back, and they gotta solve the mystery before other people's secrets come out, including their own. Good soup. But yeah, that's why I'm gonna read that. So I'll probably update you around the time that I finish it because it's pretty short. Hello, welcome to probably the last clip in this location for a bit because my sister's coming home tomorrow from college, and this is normally where she sleeps. So fun times, all around, good fun times. But I finished proper English, like, thank you for informing me. I've walked my steps like 10 minutes ago. So good times. I mean, yeah, the synopsis gives away basically the whole entire plot, which is basically Pat falling for Fen, who is the fiance of Jimmy, her childhood best friend, through her older brother Bill, and then they get separated. They have a relationship, but then one of the members at this shooting party that suddenly has a bunch of extra people that were not expected to be there ends up being murdered, and so they have to solve the murder. Yeah, that's the whole entire plot. It was mid for most of it. I didn't care about the murder mystery plot at all. Like, at all. The only point of it really was to get, like, the secrets of everyone out, I guess. I don't know. And a lot of it was written at a point where, like, at one point they'd recognize something or realize something, and then, like, a chapter later, they'd be like, oh, wait, this, and realize it. And I noticed it a few times, and I was like, you know, just a little weird. but also like most of the awkwardness of the shooting party of this whole entire group. Um, yeah, I was having secondhand embarrassment of this one character, uh, Hayworth. Is that how you pronounce his last name? I don't know. Who is the husband of the daughter of the earl who is the owner of this property, and the father of the childhood best friend, right? Does that make sense? And so he wasn't a good guy. He was really, really annoying and really pissing me off throughout this whole entire book. So I kind of guess he was the one to be murdered very early on. Um, yeah, it was whatever. Most of the book was whatever, except for all the scenes where Pat and Finn were alone together, and then I was thriving. Okay, listen, the way that Pat taught her how to shoot a gun, I was thriving. Them taking a walk around the lake, and talking about just life stuff, and Pat realized that Fenn isn't just like this airhead, beautiful lady who knows nothing. She was just like trained to like get a husband her whole entire life, and so that's like what she knows how to do best. And all this. And so everyone just assumed she's an airhead type thing, but she actually is like really intelligent, especially emotionally intelligent, right? And so yeah, that was really sweet. Pat standing up for her, with Hayworth. I really hope that's how you pronounce his name. And Pat standing up for her against Jimmy, the fiance, because he was being a douche the whole time. Also, I totally guessed most of the twists throughout it, including who Jimmy was in love with. It's a little gay. It's a little gay. But yeah, it was a lot of cuteness. We got some lesbian loving. literally, the first time they kiss, Pat is all in her head like, oh, maybe she thinks it's just like a kiss between friends. And then Fenn goes in for another kiss because Fenn was the one to give her a kiss in the first place. And you learn later on that like she had like a girlfriend in finishing school, that she had like relations with and everything, which like technically so did Pat, but it wasn't as much of a relationship, and she ended up marrying a guy, I mean all this stuff, and saying that it was just like a thing that all young women do in school. I'm sorry, when was that for me? Excuse me? But literally the way that Pat just absentmindedly put her head on Fed's boob, and she was like, oh my god, a boob. Great, it was great. Literally the whole entire romance aspect, I loved. The rest of it was whatever. So I'm going with 3.5 stars. I don't know if I'm gonna continue the series, because from my understanding, the author writes mostly gay, historical, or fantasy romance. So like it could be my type of thing, so I'll look into the other ones, but I think this one was technically a prequel, and whatnot. And yeah, I don't know which book I'm going to start next for this. It's probably not going to be for a bit because I got to do the weekend reading blog and whatnot. But, yeah, I enjoyed it. I read it all the way through. It was a good time. I got to go make dinner soon. So, you know, I'm going to go. And I'll talk to you probably in like a week or something like that. Okay, I just finished filming the weekend reading blog. And, I let H do that thing that I always let H do, where H chooses which book I read next. I'm pretty sure that's how I read proper English first for this vlog. And 2 out of 3 of them were the other 2 for this vlog, right? Makes sense. Which means the next book I'm gonna read is the Judith McNaught one. I never remember the name of the book. I just know it was written by Judith McNaught. You can see the cover. But yeah, I read the synopsis of both this one and the other one, and we gotta have a conversation, okay? So this one is written in 1989 and it's kidnapping romance. You can tell why I'm scared, okay? You can tell. And then I went and looked up the content warnings on Storygraph. Love Storygraph for that. And on top of like the normal like kidnapping, misogyny, bodily injury type stuff that was low-key expecting from a kidnapping romance from 1989. We also got essay and R word, which like, and hear me out, in no romance do we need that. Please, why? But I was looking at it on Goodreads as well, and the person, Chandler Ainsley is how I learned about this book. I think that's how I learned about all three of these, honestly. Rated it 5 stars and really liked it like 3 years ago. So I'm still gonna try, but like, don't blame me if I DNF it, because like, please, why? Like, I can possibly give it a pass in the idea that like it's a book from the 80s that's a kidnap romance, so possibly things in it it like we nowadays recognize it's SA and R word, but back then weren't as viewed as that. So like, I can low-key give it a pass. Like, not a full pass, but I can see why. The other one, Edenbrook, which is just, the cover is great, but hear me out. Also, I went to look at the synopsis of that one just for the fun of it, where apparently the main character gets a letter from, is it her twin sister, I think, possibly, to go visit her, and so she goes and visits her. There's highwaymen that happen, I don't know, and her sister wants to marry the heir of Edenbrook or something like that, and I think based on the synopsis that the main character ends up accidentally romancing him instead. I think, I'm not 100% sure on that. It doesn't like blatantly say it, but the way that things are worded, I think that's what happens. But also I just thought for fun I should check the content warning for that one as well, and it also has SA and R word. And to make it even worse, because like in the Judith McNaught, they were in the moderate section, right? It goes like high, moderate, minimum, or something like that. Moderate's like the middle section. The one, Edenbrook, it's in like the high section. And it's from 2012. So this may be a book where, this may be a vlog where I just finished one of the books and I DNF the other two. It's a possibility, because like, and hear me out, when I'm reading romance, I don't want to read about that. Hear me out. So, yeah. I can like think of a few where SA and R were like part of it and I enjoyed the romance book, but like the first one I can think of is the Courtney Milan that I read, but like, and hear me out, it wasn't like described in any way or any of that stuff. It was just a thing that happened to this character and her trying to live her life after the fact, and this other character being there for her, and them forming a romance end up being there for the other one, right? So you know, it makes, yeah, yeah, that's where I'll start. I'm scared. So I'll probably pick up the Judith McNaught at some point today. But I don't know how far I'm gonna get. I'll update you maybe halfway through. Welcome to Same Day, Different Location with Margarita. Much needed for this book, because I DNF'd it. After I was gonna try to, I always try to get 10%, but I couldn't. I couldn't, fam. I got to 3%. Okay, in 20. I'm talking about the Judith McNaught, by the way. Yeah, I didn't even finish the first chapter. One, she's 17, and he gives me 30s vibe, but I don't know how his age, but I know he's an adult, right? And basically, apparently, from my understanding, the book starts with her forced marriage to him after his assaulting of her, which, you know, she's not a big fan of, but then, like, she's thinking about it, and she's, like, blaming herself, because, like, if she wasn't, so unladylike, she wouldn't have been sent to the convent, which then she wouldn't have been there, and then, she wouldn't have been kidnapped by him, and then she wouldn't have been assaulted, and then she would be forced into this marriage, and the way I'm supposed to root for their romance baffles me. Okay, like, no, just the margarita is needed, because no. Yeah, good times. I did go back and find the vlog I found it from, as well as Edinburgh. That was a Chandler Ainsley video. I remembered it was one of those vlogs from like 2 to 3 years ago. And so I watched it again, and she didn't really mention much about it. Didn't mention his whole, she was like, oh yeah, it's a little problematic. And then moved on. I was like, yeah, I really like it, and how like he seems like a bad guy, but he's actually not that bad, and all this stuff. I was just sitting here like, maybe that's the case, but I'm not gonna find out because I don't find it worth it. Also, before he kidnapped her, she was gonna be forced to marry this guy that's older than her dad, who has been watching her since she's been changing into womanhood, and she is 17. I want out. So I got out. I was gonna try for 10%, but there may have been a voice message from H just saying DNF on repeat. So yeah, I'm out. I'm gonna go read a lesbian novella instead, and then lesbian nonfiction, because both of those sound so much better than whatever this book was. How does it have over 4 stars on Goodreads? Like, this is the same issue I have with that Cowboy Romance and Christmas vlog. Like, I don't understand. If I had read it, it's over 450 pages. So not worth it. There's no way I could have finished it. I would have thrown either me or the book through the window. But also, even if I did manage to finish it, there's no way it'd be above 1 star. Because, and hear me out, no. So I'm moving on with my life. I don't know when I'll read Edinburgh. Sometime in the next week probably, which I'm also scared of because similar tags on the content warnings. But maybe we can hope for good times. That being said, Storygraph has done this new thing where you can like say warnings or triggers that you don't like to read, and they will warn you at the beginning when you go onto the book page if it has those. And yeah, that's that warning symbols on Edinburgh. Which I'm scared. I don't, generally it's about characters and bullying and stuff like that. So I think that's what I labeled as mine. So generally don't like those. So I want to get out. Like, sometimes books have that warning symbol and I like them, like Legendborn. But there's gotta be like some commentary in it with it. Like, there was like some commentary in it about stuff, you know. If you've read Legendborn, you know. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but like, I don't think Legendborn, or not Legendborn, I don't think Edinburgh's gonna have that. So I'm gonna suffer with that book. Maybe I'm not. I'm gonna DNF it if I have to. I'm just gonna accept that this may be a 1 month vlog. People are outside doing work, so there's weird cuts. It's because they come in and out sometimes. So that's why. But I think like somewhere near 65% of the way through Edinburgh. I've read it the past 2 days. I want to say the first day I got 25% of the way through. Second day I got 55% of the way through, which was last night. Right? So I can actually tell you what's happening. Hear me out. I don't know what it is with this book and the previous book I read right before this, where I'm supposed to find it endearing and romantic when a man makes fun of the woman in the romantic pairing, and then I'm supposed to root for them to get together because that's his way of flirting. I don't find that romantic. So, you know, good times. But yeah, basically, I instantly forget her name. Is it like Marianne or something? I'm gonna call her M because her name starts with an M. Okay. Basically, her mother has somewhat recently died within the past 1.5 years-ish. And right after their mother died, her twin sister, Cecily, went off and lived with some friends. And so her dad like basically kicked her out to move in with her grandmother and went out on his own to France. And so she feels a lot of abandonment in that way. And also feels like she is a burden on other people, and whatnot. And then recently in the book, around when the book starts, her sister is going after this guy who is a lord of some kind, right? And all this stuff, and has invited the main character to go to his family home, so that like they can be together. His mother is a childhood friend of their mom and all this stuff, so she's going there. Her grandmother has given her the job of becoming more ladylike, not wanting to ride around on horses all day or take strolls through the woods all day, because the grandmother's nephew, I think it is kind of like a rake, making a bad name for the family, and he's technically her heir, and the grandmother's like super rich and all this stuff. So she makes this new plan that if the main character becomes more ladylike and more presentable type person for the name, she inherits all of her grandmother's money. She can't like inherit the property because woman, but she will get all the money. And she doesn't really like the property. She doesn't like living in a place like Bath, so she's fine with that. But she's like, I shouldn't turn down the money, like seriously, especially since she has a goal to marry for love, and whatnot. And you know, that makes it more difficult if she doesn't have money and all this stuff. So yeah, she's currently in the process of doing that. Like within the first day of on their journey to this family estate called Edenbrook, hence the name of the book, they are attacked by a highwayman. Her lady's maid shoots him. Their driver gets shot. And the only thing that is stolen is her necklace that she just got from her grandmother that had a picture of her mother in it, right? Great times. They go to the end. She, like, nearby, she has to drive the cart there because the driver been shot. So thankfully she, like, has training in it, knows what she's doing. So they get there. He gets taken after. They, like, call a doctor and whatnot. The maid instantly falls asleep because she's, like, so shook from everything. And she ends up low-key befriending this guy that's there, who offers to like handle all the stuff that she has to handle, like letting people know that she's gonna be late at locations, letting her grandmother know what happened, all that nice stuff, like figuring out what to do with the driver. Good times. I think his name is James. And all she knows about him is his name is Philip. And so the next morning she wakes up to him having handled everything and him making sure that none of the people, including the innkeeper and his wife, the nurse he hires to take care of James, the driver of the carriage he gets, all this stuff, won't tell her who he actually is. And it's a little suspicious to me. Also, like, why would a woman who was just attacked by a highwayman and go through all that stuff to then get into a cart hired by an unknown man? Anyway, she ends up on Edenbrook, and then before long she figures out that this guy Philip is actually the second son of this family. All this stuff. Later on, like around halfway through the book, she learns that the eldest son died like a few years ago, so he is the heir and all this stuff. So good times. Actually, I guess he's technically the Lord, right? His ability to like keep secrets from her despite knowing almost everything about her. Good times, good times. There's a lot of stuff about how her feelings of abandonment, understandable. They start a friendship. They start getting along. He really understands her and her grief. I don't really like some of the character writing, but the writing in general is really well done, especially for the main character, about her grief and whatnot, and how she's been able to, like, I don't remember how the line goes exactly, but it's a lot about how she, like, has been able to push her grief down as much as possible, but now it's coming up of her own volition, and it's not a good time for her. There was another one about a painting that she did, that she put her whole heart and soul into, and whatnot, and Philip tries to steal it from her or buy it from her and all this stuff, and she, in her head, she's like, I can't give him this painting because it's my heart and soul, and I can't give him my heart and soul, and all this stuff. Basically, when she learns that he is the Lord, she realizes, hey, wait a second, my sister, this is the guy that she's going after. I should try to end the friendship now because, like, she's gonna show up soon, and she's, like, out with his younger brother who's already married, and his sister, having, like, her debut and all this fun stuff, in London, and so she's, like, showing up late, all this fun stuff. Um, very early on in their friendship, it's noted that he likes to see her blush. He likes to try to make her blush. So throughout the book, like, he is flirting with her, and he very clearly has a thing for her. But she just assumes that it's him trying to make her flirt because he finds it a game to try to make her flirt. Or not flirt, blush. It's a game where he tries to make her blush. Like, she just assumes that's what's happening, despite the fact that she started to recognize that she wants to kiss him. And is really upset when Cecily arrives and is going after him, like assumed. And she, like, is really like, I feel betrayed by my own sister, all this stuff. Also, part of their friendship was that he has this horse, Meg, that is, not like a well-broken horse, right? And so they go riding every morning, and so he takes Cecily out with, and she takes the horse, and she's like, oh, it's fine. It's like, she's my sister. She'll let me take the horse, even though he's basically given it to, and then, the next morning, later that morning, Cecily's like, when it's my horse, though, I'll make sure to break it properly. And she's like, excuse me? Also, no one knows about the inheritance except for her, from the grandmother, so she's trying to become more ladylike so that she can get this inheritance, and all this stuff. The mother of Philip is trying to, play in this ball right now, and she's low-key trying to help because she should be more ladylike, but also she wants to stay away from Cecily, because Cecily's, friendship with Philip's sister, she's, like, really rude to her, the sister is, but also so is Cecily. They are very, very rude to her for no reason. They're, like, laughing at her for, like, her complaining that they're flirting with the cousin. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So, like, James disappears. The car driver that was shot disappears. And the nurse who was hired to take care of him shows up and is like, hey, that happened. Also, there was some weird guy with a cane, looking for you at the inn. It was a little weird. And so someone has heard that James went, to the coast, and is there currently, and they're questioning how he has any money to do that. And then, the nephew that was disowned by the grandmother shows up, who's technically her cousin, shows up, and he has a cane, and starts flirting instantly with Cecily and respects her obviously more than M, and all this fun stuff. And then she's like, why would you flirt with him? He's kind of the worst. And she's like, oh, well, don't you know, breaks are great to kiss. And she's like, in her head, she's like, why would you be trying to kiss our cousin when you're trying to marry this other guy? Like, but they're all, like, laughing at her. Louisa, I think that's the name of the sister, is, like, constantly butting out of her hangouts with Cecily, so that Cecily Em's just left alone at the house. Philip tries to, like, hang out with her, and she's like, no, there's, like, this whole thing where, like, when they were children, they got a doll from an aunt, that was, like, a really nice doll, and Cecily automatically took it as hers first, because she was born 7 minutes earlier, therefore she's the firstborn, so she gets to hang out with the doll first. And then Em realized that Cecily will always get what she wants because she's the more beautiful and more womanly, accomplished person. So why even try competing for things, if no matter what, Cecily's gonna win? So she has just, every time Cecily decides to do something, and if it's something that happens to be something similar to what she wants to do, she will, like, instantly stop and do something else because she knows there's no way she can compete with her. And it's just a lot of stuff like that. And so now Philip is the new doll, I guess, technically. I don't like Cecily. Can you tell? And also our friend Louisa. Is that actually her name? But yeah, also, Philip, she just overheard Philip fencing with William. And he was complaining about how, they were complaining about one of the twins, and she assumes that it's about her, and how the grandmother forced her to be there, and how he can't send her back to Bath, and that, it's like he doesn't want to have to take care of her and all this stuff, so she assumes that this whole entire friendship was fake and that it's him taking care of her, and she doesn't want the pity or be a burden, and so it really upsets her, and now she's, like, very numb to everything and not wanting to handle things. Meanwhile, his mother is out here knowing that he has a thing for her, just trying to make them be together while being like, don't you dare marry this Cecily, don't you dare, which I find very funny. I assume she's gonna end up with him, and Cecily can get out of here. But also, where is the assault? Where's the essay? Because that is one of the first 3 tags on Storygraph for the content warnings. And I'm scared. My theory is the nephew of grandmother cousin, yeah, the disowned nephew. trying to get his inheritance back from her because he's the only other person that knows other than the grandmother. So maybe that, but I don't know. The character writing, most of the book when is just her and Philip for like the, like, I don't know, 30% that is just the two of them hanging out at Edenbrook. It's a lot of like him flirting with her blushing and then getting angry that he constantly flirts with her, and then him calming her down by flirting with her more, and then she can't stay angry at him, and then they move on, but she does briefly yell at him for flirting with her all the time, and then like over and over and over again, and she's just like, it's just, well, I'm like, she's like, yay, I want to kiss a man. I'm like, it's annoying, okay? Also the way that she doesn't recognize that as flirting is actual flirting is just so fun. I love it so much. Anyways, I'm fine with it. It's not bad. There's a lot of stuff happening, but also it feels like nothing's happening. And also I get the romance between Philip and Em because they do have, if you ignore her being an idiot about his flirting and him being an idiot about his flirting, I can see it. They're very similar in a lot of ways. Yeah, so like it's fine. The thing is though, when I went back to watch the video where that this book and the Judith McNaught was in, so I could like where I learned about these books from, when I ran to rewatch it, I learned that the whole entire reason why I added Edenbrook to my TBR was because the description that Philip's like Darcy, but if Darcy flirted more. I don't think I get it. But like, sure, go off. But yeah, it's fine. I don't really care most of the time, I guess. There is a lot of dramatic things happening all the time, like wild things, like what? So you know, that's fine. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention there's like another thing. She has another love interest. When she was with her grandmother, there's this like older guy who's like twice her age, and whatnot, who like really grossed her out, but like constantly flirted with her, and kept on like writing her poems, like really bad poetry about her and all this stuff. And she's like, I'm good. So eventually, like, she leaves, right? And then his nephew is coming to visit, and so the nephew, he apparently put in a whole entire book all the poems that he wrote about her. And then he had his nephew go to Edenbrook and give it to her. And then he starts flirting with her. As Philip's just there like, excuse me, what? And so she's like kind of has a little bit of flirtation with him. I think he's going to be at the ball as well. So that's the thing. Yeah, right after that is when Philip taught her how to write a love letter, which was clearly actually a love letter where he's talking about her. And like at one point, one of the first lines was like actually more poetic than anything that Mr. Old Guy in Bath ever wrote to her. And I'm just like, can she get it through her thick skull? Okay, please. Literally, there's a point in it where he's like, you don't even recognize how I feel about you. And she's like, he must have loved someone deeply to write like this. Anyways, I have less than 2 hours left in the ebook. I was gonna say audiobook. No, I'm reading it as an ebook. What am I talking about? I have less than 2 hours left, so I'm gonna finish it today. Which means I probably will update you with my final thoughts tomorrow. And yeah. Hello. I'm in the middle of watering plants. My hair looks like a mess because I'm gonna afterwards help my sister do stuff outside. Which means my hair's gonna become a mess. So why would I wash it when I can wash it afterwards, right? Right? But I finished Edenbrook last night, which means I get to end the vlog. And what did there was actual screaming. Not someone I don't know going down the hill. I don't even know who that was. Anyways, yeah, Edenbrook was a thing. I don't know if I want to do a recording of all the voice memos I sent to H of me screaming. I may throw a few in. I may not. If I do, in my words, in case I didn't, no, I was angry. I was angry. I drank tequila to get over how angry I was afterwards, because what was that? What? What? No. The way that characters won't explain or won't even tell I think her name actually is Marianne, anything, and then laugh at her when she just assumes something completely different is happening, and they just laugh at her. And I'm like, please be serious. Also, not that far after I like stopped and recorded yesterday, Marianne realized that she did have a thing for Philip and was madly in love with him, but she was like, there's no way he can love me back. I'm screaming. And then the whole entire, her overhearing him talking about like wanting to send her home and all this stuff was mostly so, one, he could understandably ask her out, because like this whole thing where like technically he's the man supposed to be watching over her currently, since her dad's in France, or whatnot, so she has like no other male family members, and her grandmother sent her there so that he could watch over her, but like he has a thing for her, and he is like, oh, I want to get like her elsewhere so that I can reasonably ask her out without being like seeming like I'm taking advantage of the situation, right? But also, again, my sister's doing workouts that she occasionally comes inside, hence weird cut. But another reason why he wants to send her away is because of his sister and her sister. Like, they are being really mean to her, making fun of her, making her all the butt of the jokes, all this stuff. At one point, like, she went through the process of, like, getting all these nice new dresses and, like, feeling nice about it. And then her sister's like, oh, don't worry, we'll get you some new dresses in London. Because, like, that's a fine enough dress. And she was, like, actually feeling pretty that day. And all this stuff. And she was, like, very miserable because of it. And he could tell. So he wanted to send her away so that she wouldn't have to deal with them. Right? Makes sense. Other things, the essay, I was wrong. It was not the cousin who is the grandmother's disowned nephew, because I'm pretty sure he's just out here banging Cecily. He does threaten her. He's like, hey, money. He's like, I know that you are the one who is gonna get my inheritance and all this stuff, and is really angry at her, but then just like moves on as soon as he gets confirmation. There's like no reason for him to do that. And then there was the guy who, the nephew of the guy who was writing her love poems back in Bath, who showed up and she was low-key having a flirtation with. He was the one. I think he was a drug fiend. I think he did cocaine. That was the reasoning. But he wants her inheritance, so his way of doing that is running away with her by kidnapping her, and then she will be forced to marry him, at which point she brings up the idea that like, hey, I need to be like a respectable lady to get this inheritance, and by me running away, quote unquote running away, to the view of everyone else, and getting to the point where I end up getting married to this guy is not ladylike. We're ignoring the dog. I don't know what she's barking at. I'm just gonna finish this off really fast, I guess, because what is my dog barking at? It was listen, the essay wasn't much. It was just forcefully kissing her a few times. It was heavily hinted at that he was willing to go do more, but she fought him off and was fine, and then Philip cut up his face. Yay. Yeah, I don't know why it's at the top level of storygraph. I understand moderate, but like not the top level. But yeah, basically writing in general wasn't bad, but I hated every character. Like literally was angry. Like at one point, she writes this letter when she thinks she's going to be forced into marriage or killed by this man. She writes this letter to Phil stating that she loves him, and then puts in her boot, hides in her boot. It's just the same car going up again. What the hell? What the hell is this? So she does this, and then when she finally gets home after everything, blah 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 blah, her maid takes off her shoes and then puts the letter on her desk, and then her sister comes in, sees the letter, and just reads it, despite the fact that it's signed to Philip, and then recognizes that her sister's in love with the guy that she's trying to win over. So then she makes this whole plan where her best friend, who is his sister, like, throws. The next day is a ball, by the way, that she's still forced to go to, despite being kidnapped less than 24 hours ago. At the ball, like, throws her in the room, is like, hey, do you actually love my brother? And she's like, oh, you do. Well, that's fine, I guess. But, like, she's been a real not nice person to the main character the whole book. And then afterwards, when she goes in, then they drag her into the room that Philip's in as he's reading the letter, because they gave the letter to Philip, and then they make out, and say their love for each other. And then the next day it's assumed that they're getting married, which I guess, yes. But before the night ends, her sister is on the balcony, and so she goes out to see her sister, and her sister are talking, and her sister is all like, oh, I guess I should have been a better sister. And the whole time I was thinking, you know what would have made this better? If she pushed her sister off the balcony. That would have made it better. That would have made it a good book. The writing in general wasn't bad sometimes. It was just the characters. I hated every single one of them. I wanted to, at one point, when they were all going to the ball that they were throwing, and all this stuff, and like all this stuff was happening, I was like, you know what would be better? If they all just spontaneously combusted. Like, yeah, I didn't like it. Yeah, and then when I was putting my tracker whether or not it's like traditional or indie or self-published, right? I learned that the publishing company that was published through is owned by, I think it's the Church of Jesus of Latter-day Saints. I don't know if that's the exact name, but it's like one church group, which, like, some of the writing literally makes sense for that, but also some of the writing, some of it, where, like, it's insinuated at the end when she's talking to Philip for the last time before the book ends, and, like, he, like, low-key officially asks her to marry, I think, and they're in the orchard, and she's, like, super happy, and all this stuff, and it's insinuated of, like, him bringing up, like, where they're gonna go for the honeymoon, and he's like, I was thinking about the honeymoon, and she's like, so was I, and he's like, well, that too, and, like, anyways, I rated it 2.5 stars. In anger, I rated it 2.5 stars. I was gonna rate it 3 stars, but, like, around 75% of the way through, I was wanting every character to be just brutally murdered instead. And then I would have had a fun time. Okay? And yeah, I guess that means the winner of this vlog is the gay one. Yay. I mean, okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick rundown, because it's been, I think, over a week that I've been reading these books, proper English. It was pretty good. I liked most of it. We love the gays. Some character decisions were kind of dumb, but that's fine. It was cute at moments. 3.5 stars. I will not be continuing with the series because I read the synopsis for the second one. It was not my thing, right? Second book was The Judith McNaught, which I DNF'd at 3%. Which is great because it's almost 500 pages. Because, hear me out, I don't want to read about a woman being forced to marry a guy after he forces himself on her. And I'm supposed to find it romantic. I'm good. I'm good. No. Literally, I was looking at reviews and whatnot about it. And like, the one where I found this book from is all like, yeah, you think he's like this macho, scary man, but he's actually a sweetheart at heart. I'm like, what? Anyways, I'm good. I'm moving on with my life. I'm just not gonna continue the series. I'm good. I'm good. And then Edinburgh, of course, 2.5 stars. Listen, for a romance, I need the characters to be good. I need to want to have the characters be together in a romance. And the whole entire time, I was not having it. And then when it was finally actually becoming like a romance, I was like, you know, it'd be better if they all died. Stuff that tells me that's not what I'm supposed to want in a romance, okay? And also, like, I realized or learned that technically it's a standalone that has like a prequel novella from Philip's point of view, where it's like up to when he meets her at the inn at the very beginning of the book, because like he learned that there was a woman coming to his house, and he was like, oh no, another gravedigger, I'm good, and went to run away and ran away to the inn. Well, he was at the inn to like eat or something, and then she came to the inn like, oh my god, all this stuff, and then so he instantly knew who she was, but she didn't know who he was, and like she didn't have like 98% of the information, 98% of the book. So mad. But I will not be reading that. I don't care. 2.5 stars. Was this fun for anyone? At least I got to read a gay book, I guess. Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go finish watering the plants. Ending off the vlog. Link below is all my social media, including the podcast where I talk about books. As well as H's, because I talk about H like all the time. Up above are the cards. Actually, I don't think I have anything to put up above the cards this time. So maybe I'll put maybe possibly up above the cards I will have the vlog where I found these books from, if I remember to find it. I think I've rewatched it, so it should be in my history pretty recent on YouTube, right? But also H's most recent video, because everyone should go watch that, because there was a lot of editing work to put into it, but it was fudging hilarious. I do not care. It was hilarious. I was dying laughing, okay? So that's the thing. Next Wednesday is another read with me, and next Saturday is the purple reading vlog, I believe, if I know my schedule in my head properly. So, you know, fun times. And that's that. So until the next time.